My first impression of the Footprint Gen 2 was that it just made immediate musical sense to me, which is always my favorite thing. I'm always looking for help.
They sounded great. I mean, I know my room really well. And the translation was flawless.
The upgrades, the clarity from signal to speaker, the hey what factor, definitely improved.
I want people to be able to afford these things, so I'm always trying to find ways to make them more affordable, but without compromising what it actually means to be a Barefoot.
So yeah, man, I got the Gen 2s I don't know, 4 weeks ago. I put them up in my room. They sounded great. I mean, I know my room really well. I've been there, 27, 28 years. I have a place up about an hour and a half north. And I'm like, man, these are so great sounding. They're small enough that I can put them in my car. Let me just take them there and see what happens. Took them, I put a table together, brought my computer, my headphones, speakers, and I was able to control my console from my computer, team viewer, and I started working on a mix. And I'm making decisions based on the speakers, and I'm like, okay, cool. I feel good about the mix. Got back to my room. I listened to it in my room with the speakers that I had, in there for years, and the translation was flawless. I'm like, oh snap! Now I have a whole other sort of option, So I'm thinking, okay, well, now I'm going to have another place where I can put these in my lounge as another reference. I got to say, I'm so picky with monitors. We have to be, right? I always joke I'm an NS10 guy by, I think we all are from my generation, right? And I'm so used to those just because I'm used to them. But it's very pleasant when, look, they send you all kinds of speakers, and I think I've turned all of them down just because they just don't sound soulful enough. I don't know what that even means, but this is one of the first times where I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm a big fan immediately. Like, it didn't take much. I didn't have to sit with them for a couple of weeks to get used to them. It was immediate. I joke that in a sense, I like to beat them up, I like to abuse them, right? And I believe that my monitor, I want to be able to abuse it and not necessarily just bring it up till my ears bleed type of thing. When I'm carving certain frequencies, I got to be able to know what's coming back, right? And I'd like to push them to see to the breaking point. And a lot of monitors can't handle that. And for me, and I know my desk really well. I know if I do this and if it starts crapping out, then I know it's not for me immediately, right? So that's one way for me to tell if I'm really gonna like something. To me, it's just how can I push it? I feel like Barefoot in general, I can push them more than anything else. Without just crapping out. Like, and look, you can make them crap out, but it's in a weird way. It's musical. It's like, oh, okay, that's where I hit them too. I'm going too far, but I just like to abuse them.
The old ones were sitting on my rig at home in my office. Like, we're between 5:30 and 8 in the morning. I'm always prepping, editing, doing keyboard parts, whatever, just assembling records and prepping them for mix. So I was very attuned to exactly that certain level and how they sounded. And then as soon as the next revision came up and I switched them out and put the exact same level, it was like a new speaker. But what I did notice is that it's almost like the tissue paper was pulled off and it was just more forward. So it seemed like the upgrades, the clarity from signal to speaker, the hey what factor, definitely improved. So they're right where they belong doing that. And I think it's great to have people at this size product, okay, where they can get full range on a stand, on their desk. When they're just in the desk, it's a lot of bass. When you raise them, well, then it makes more sense. I did like when I got the extra bass because it would vibrate the whole desk. It wasn't like, wow, is this going to be drastically different? No, it was just like, well, how'd you do that? Thomas is like a little genius with the speaker. So how did you do that? How did you make it that noticeable but subtle? Does that make sense to you? So, yeah, I enjoyed it. I have a bunch of different Barefoot flavors, and I've gone from the super stack to the smallest ones. Now I see the 3 Cs are the mini minis. Out of all those, the ones that are the most friendly for me is the Footprint line, because it just seems to be a size that's almost portable from control room to intimate space to desk. Look, because everyone just has a spare bedroom or an office or an acoustically not friendly situation. So nothing better than having a set of near fields that can help solve that problem. What makes a great speaker is that you can depend on it and you want to listen to it. There's so many speakers out there that you plug and goes, oh, I don't want to listen to it. But for some reason, when I just see a Barefoot speaker, Barefoots, I just want to listen to music through them. There's something inviting because you know what you're going to get. You're going to get an experience that no matter what you put on, it's going to come out better through the Barefoots than it was intended. You know, when I home and I see them and my wife sees me looking at them, she goes, oh boy, it's going to get loud.
My first impression of the Footprint Gen 2 was that it just made immediate musical sense to me, which is always my favorite thing. I'm always looking for help because as a self-loathing Canadian, I can't stand my own mixes, and I find mixing hard. Unlike other people that you've had sitting in this chair, I think, I know Chris Lord-Alge encourages people to mix quickly. He prides himself on mixing quickly, and I've watched him do it, or other people like Manny or Tony Maserati, or all these fantastic mixers. They can do it real fast. Every once in a while, I can do something that sounds okay quickly, but most of the time it takes me a long time. So I need speakers that really help and also not just kind of like accurately show me through a camera lens like what's going on, but also inspire me like listening to a great singer. I'm really a musician. That's how my weird career sort of happened, and everything feels like I'm in a band and I'm kind of reacting to other musicians or a singer. And when I can find speakers that give me that feeling, but also come with mixed translation, that's the hardest thing to find. There's really, really a super short list of those speakers. There's lots of speakers that are fun to listen to in the world, like quite a long list of those speakers. The ones that have mixed translation are, this may be like, I think there's probably less than 10, So I would add the Gen 2 to that list. It's just instantly helpful. And with me having 6 kids and a lot of deadlines and a crazy career, and I'm kind of naturally disorganized anyway. I need things to help me move quickly. Speakers like the Gen 2 absolutely help me get the job done sounding better and faster. For me, what makes a good speaker, I'm probably not the typical client of like someone walking into a store wanting to just buy a speaker to listen to music on, because I keep the lights on by the music that I put through the speakers, because I'm making music for other people to listen to. So I need speakers that I don't have to guess on. So if I'm reaching for something, if I'm starting to EQ a kick drum, if I'm starting to like turn a thing up or turn it down, and it sounds right and it feels right on those speakers, I don't want to have my butt kicked when I go to the car and listen to it, or play it at a friend's house, or hear it on the radio. And God forbid, that like I've been lied to by the speakers I was mixing on. That has happened to me many times earlier in my career, and I did not realize how important mix translation was when I was a younger mixer and producer. And it is just, I think it might be the most important thing in the control room when you're mixing a record. It's like, it's your dance partner, It's like you're on Dancing with the Stars. There's 2 of you dancing. You really have to trust who you're dancing with. And it might be your dance partner who's dancing backwards. Like, that's what it feels like to me. They have to know every move you're making. They got to almost be able to read your mind, and vice versa. That's what a great speaker has to feel like for me, or at this point, because I'm a billion years old at this point, and I don't have time to like second guess. Well, I think I'm hearing whatever, 2K or 70 hertz, or I think I can't. I just need I need a lens that is showing me exactly where all the giraffe are on the savannah, savannah. I can't even talk anymore, but I need accuracy, and it's got to also sound good. There are speakers out there that do have mixed translation that are sort of lifeless. Weirdly, they do have mixed translation, but it's kind of like a sort of a, I'm trying to be funny, but it's kind of an impotent experience working on them. It's just not exciting at all. For me, the whole Barefoot ethos in all the speakers does bring kind of almost like a live band kind of energy. Somehow it's able to accomplish that vibe coming out of the speakers, but it doesn't screw up the mix translation. And for me, the Gen 2 really nails that. It just has this wonderful kind of framing sonically. It has a really great focus. It just instantly worked for me. And the first mix I checked at home sounded exactly like it did sitting in my little chair at my console.
So we have the Gen 2s. We're calling them the Gen 2s from the Footprint line, but really they're the Footprint03 is really a Gen 2. That wasn't by intention, but since really been working on it since the development of the 03, so it's been a few years. Because when the 03 came out, we were Barefoot builds these expensive speakers, these kind of Uber speakers, but that's not really my intention. I want people to be able to afford these things, so I'm always trying to find ways to make them more affordable, but without compromising what it actually means to be a Barefoot. And so when we decided, okay, we're going to try to come in at that price point for the 03, I felt like, well, I just got to be smarter, because I don't want to sacrifice performance. I don't want to sacrifice all these things. And so I'm going to try to, within that budget, find things that sort of key things that can make the speakers perform better, but don't cost a lot. And like that one thing that was Spock came out of that, for example. And so those have now migrated into the Gen 2 01 and 2. So yeah, so as far as what the R&D process is, I'm very I'm not a very methodological person, when it comes to that. I dream about speakers all the time, but I can't say I have any very disciplined way of going about it. I just get these little brainstorms every once in a while. But yeah, in that pursuit of just trying to figure out, like, what can I do to make a more affordable speaker, but make it as good as, or as close to being as good as our more expensive speakers. It's really just a shotgun approach. And one of the things that occurred to me was, okay, like I'm going to look at every single little aspect of the design, starting from the converters all the way to the drivers, amplifiers, drivers, cabinet, everything. And just one day kind of thinking about, like, okay, well, what does a converter do? What are we doing when we do this converter thing, right? So we're taking professional level signals and we're squashing them down into a little chip, right? And we actually have to attenuate to get the signals to fit into those chips. Barefoot can't afford, probably no speaker company can afford to cut our own silicon, and make our own analog to digital converters. But if I think about the signal of, like, what music is, it's kind of like pink noise, right? It's got high amplitudes on the low end and smaller amplitudes on the high frequencies. And if you buy a converter chip, it's naturally a stereo converter. Well, the only reason I'm attenuating the signal is because I'm trying to fit those low frequencies in, right? So, and I'm building a speaker which has crossovers in it, right? I'm splitting the high frequencies and the low frequencies already. Why don't I just take one of those stages of the crossover and actually stick it out front of the converter in the analog domain, split the highs and lows? Now I can send the highs through completely unattenuated. I can do all my signal processing in there, send them back out through the DAC into the amplifiers at full resolution. I still need to squash down the low frequencies and then, basically add gain at the end after all of that. But perceptually, we hear artifacts and distortion and all these kind of things much more in the mid-range and high frequencies than we do the lows. So just by doing that little step, we effectively create a much more high-resolution speaker.